And we are live, and dun 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 dun.
Wow. Lords of Light!
Demon dogs! All right, folks, welcome
Wow.
to dun 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 dun. Welcome to Podcast at Ground Zero, episode 36, Thundarr the Barbarian. We are going to be talking about everybody's, and I mean everybody, because if it's not your favorite, you suck. Everybody's favorite post-apocalyptic cartoon from the 1980s, Thundarr the Barbarian.
We're not gonna have to have a fight about whether Planet of the Apes or Thundarr's better, are we?
Um,
That is like comparing. Okay, that is like comparing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony to the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, but Thundarr's still better.
Yeah. It's like that's like comparing apples and nuclear reactors, sir. Okay, it's just not, you know. So anyway, so joining us tonight, as we can see, is Adam Bomb Glancy and William T. Thrasher. William T. Thrasher is no longer a special co-host because he's on the show so much. So, but it's, as he said, it's his favorite cartoon. So I was like, okay, well, okay. But anyway, no, it's always good to have you, Will. And
Glad to be here.
You're going to have to go some way towards proving that this is your favorite cartoon.
Well, I say it's my favorite post-apocalyptic cartoon.
well, there's not a whole lot to choose from. So,
All right, I thought it was
Well, there's Planet of the Apes.
I thought you was a favorite cartoon, so I was going to say, you know, how did this run up against the Herculoids, or what would be another Space Ghost? But all right, fine.
well, but a lot of the same players were involved in that. But anyway, so we're gonna talk about Thundarr the Barbarian. Cartoon came out. It was actually a lot of places. I've seen it misrepresented, saying Hanna-Barbera. I've seen, but it's actually Ruby Spears, who actually did work for Hanna-Barbera and cut their teeth in the animation field from them and learned a lot from them and formed their own animation company called Ruby Spears, and that's the last name of the two gentlemen, of course. And I think it's what was it, Jack Ruby? You have to. I don't remember the first name.
Jack Ruby's
Joe
the president,
Ruby and Ken Spears.
presidential assassin. Joe Ruby.
Maybe Joe Ruby and Ken Spears. Thank you.
Oswald assassin. I got that backwards.
Yeah, so Patton Oswalt was involved in this.
It's now completely out of control. Excellent.
Well, what else is new?
We're off to another great start here.
That's why people love us, because we're, we don't pretend to be professionals, because we're not.
That's the point. Well, first of all, you people out there haven't paid us anything yet. So until you pay us, we're not professionals.
That's right.
We're
And praise doesn't count, because it doesn't pay the rent.
no, it doesn't.
So we're going to talk about that. The 80 originally formed in 1980, ran for 2 seasons. Second season was a little bit shorter, and as they said, it is a world of savagery,
Sorcery and super science.
super science.
That's 4 S's in a row. That's pretty good. That's
Yes. The only thing I have, 2 quick things about in the news is, one thing I did get, and yes, this is available on the Goodman Games website. I got the Metamorphosis Alpha Collector's Edition.
Yeah.
Dude, this thing is look. Okay, you know how big I am, 6'2".
Yeah, your head's the size of a beer keg.
Dude, this thing is a freaking monster, dude. It is a coffee table book. Everybody's like, I can't wait to play with it. It is way too big to use as your freaking rule book, okay? It is way too big.
Do they have a PDF for your laptop or something? You can
Yeah, they gave you a PDF of the original. Dude, this is just this is the box it comes in to protect it, okay?
Yeah.
Let me open the box. I'll need a little bit, okay? To do that.
Well, the box doesn't just protects you from the radiation.
It
Oh
does.
my God! Are we actually performing an unboxing on Podcast at Ground Zero?
Yeah, I guess
Yes,
we are.
All right. Well, it's that season.
Yeah.
It's the holiday, so give us an unboxing, sir.
And it is the quality of this box is amazing. It is. I mean, listen to that. It is thick. It's got to be as thick as a nickel. I mean, it is
body armor.
It is. It is really thick. Really going to protect your book well, and that's both of them. And then let me get the book out of the box. And here's the book itself. It does have a slip cover.
It's a hardcover book.
It's hard. It is hardcover. They're all hardcover. This is just the slip case. There are some leather-bound editions, and there's also leather-bound with like gold inlay on it. Again, it's. But let me tell you.
What's the point of leather if you can't see this great, cheesy 1978 artwork?
I don't know. But again, this was an $80 Kickstarter, well worth every freaking penny. Because this is just a book. I got the dice, I got the wristband, and I'm getting a stack of booklets that are going to be coming that are at the printers now. Game resources, two adventures, one solo adventure, an armory guide, a mutant manual. There's like 6 books you're getting. I mean, it was so worth spending the money on it. Again, it will be available, and I'm going to take even if I take the protective, the jacket off, which again has full, stuff on the sleeves, and again has the nice cover still on it. Does actually have a nice cloth bookmark built into it.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. And then right on the inside cover there, look at that cross section of
the warden.
The warden right there. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's hilarious.
It's amazing because look, just by comparison, here is the original Metamorphosis Alpha book. Okay, it's about 15 pages. Okay.
it's literally like 32 pages long.
This because this has in the beginning, it has besides the amazing, it has like such amazing artwork, retro artwork throughout the book here. The beginning has a forward, an introduction. It's got a history of Metamorphosis Alpha, an interview with James Ward. It has the original publication, and then it has a ton of magazine articles printed in here, like from Different Worlds magazine, I think Polyhedron, Dragon magazine. It has all kinds of stuff, supplementary material.
Is the article "How Green Is Your Mutant" in there?
Actually, I looked and I don't think it is.
Well, that's a shocker because I could have sworn that was a Metamorphosis Alpha rather than a Gamma World article from.
It was Metamorphosis Alpha.
Okay.
They didn't. I don't think they put it in there. New creatures, adding. Maybe they called it adding color to your mutant. It was maybe under supplementary material.
Okay.
But it's 128 pages. Plus, it has the original playtest documents, and also these pages are thick. You think you are actually holding 2 pages. Thick material, excellent production values.
Why does this remind me of like where they've inscribed Dianetics onto titanium sheets so it can never be destroyed, so it'll be the final document of the human race? This version of Metamorphosis Alpha looks like it was designed to be the final surviving document of humanity.
And as well,
I hear they're going to start putting it on deep space probes.
they should. So there's a lot of old school like artists that came back that did work for this, like who did all the stuff for like Chill, Paranoia? Who did that? Who did a lot of that? I always forget his freaking name.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Well, it depends. There's one particular artist that I always associate with Paranoia. He did a lot of the covers.
Yeah. I always forget.
He also did a lot of Gamma World, and I'm totally blanking on his name.
I know. I always forget his.
Jim Holloway.
Thank you, Holloway.
Jim Holloway.
Jim Holloway. Thank you. Yeah, he did a lot of work in this. What's really cool is they have the original playtest documents in here. They frickin' scanned them. His original playtest documents, like the
They're
actual
like hand-drawn maps and things.
Hand-drawn maps and the pieces of paper printed in here. Like they scanned them and printed them. It's an amazing book, nice and thick, well worth every penny. And you can still get this. You could actually get this on the Goodman Games website. So it's not like it's one of those things. Yeah, you guys missed out on it, but you know, the only thing you missed out on was the excellent deal with all the add-ons like you got for no additional cost. So yeah, it is a fantastic book, giant book. Again, everybody says I can't wait to play with it. I don't know how you're gonna play with this monster. I'm afraid to put on the damn coffee table because I don't want it to get ruined. You know. You know, so I will never put it there. But yeah, this came in freaking amazing, well worth every penny. I mean, dude, you could kill somebody with this. So
that's our goal with any product.
Yeah, so that came in. And the only thing I wanted to make a comment on, because I know I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this one, and I've posted about this, was I've seen the recent rounds of Mad Max Fury Road trailers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, Scott knows I'm very finicky and picky about movies. I'm very...
You are the Morris the Cat of post-apocalyptic films.
Of any films, period. Like, you know, like recently... I went because everybody said it was an amazing film. I went and saw Interstellar over the weekend. I wasn't as impressed as everybody made it out to be. It looked amazing. It looked great. Don't get me wrong. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. But for the story, I'd maybe give it like a 2.5, maybe.
Here's the thing that, you know, I got to tell you, this is going to sound weird, but the moment I knew I wasn't going to see it in the theaters was the moment where I learned that in the schools on Earth during this declining ecosystem biosphere, they're actually...
Spoiler alerts, everybody.
Spoiler alert. They're actually teaching that the moon landing was a fake.
Yeah.
Now, that is so fucking crazy and stupid. I'm not buying it. My sense of, you know, being able to believe in a dystopia where you can look up with a telescope and see the landing sites on the moon, that it is now policy by the American government to teach that we did not go to the moon. That was so stupid. I'm like, okay, I don't know. I'm not seeing it in the theaters.
Yeah.
I'll wait till it comes out on disc.
Yeah, so I wasn't as impressed by it. But anyways, that was just my point of how everybody thinks I'm crazy. But Mad Max Fury Road, these trailers, I am so not putting anything into this movie. I'm just going to try to go in as such a blank slate as possible because I'm already not liking it. Okay? And I don't
think that gas mask thing that's on the villain, you know, the gas mask with the face on it, does that look a little too cartoony to everybody?
The whole thing looks too cartoony because all I know is, and again, it's blasphemy. Everybody's like, I can't wait to see this. I'm like, number one, the whole Circus Olay bullshit. I can't fucking stand that. I can't stand that. Okay.
Yeah, the guys on poles going wee. Yeah, that's the first kind of tactic that I would adopt during the post-apocalypse.
And then everybody.
How can we attach guys to sticks and bend them?
Yeah, and then, you know, everybody's like, it's just one big chase scene. Yeah, which is fine. Chase scenes are fine, but all I know is, are you sure who directed this movie?
It's still George Miller.
It's still George Miller. Fucking, you sure Michael Bay Explosion didn't do this film? Okay.
Well, here's what puts me off watching the trailers. Number one, okay, the head bad guy has that weird gas mask with these teeth and face, you know, on the gas mask, which look weirdly cartoony and not actually menacing. That's kind of a thing. Number two, my huge pet peeve of all time, so much CGI. I'm seeing enormous amounts of CGI. When it was 1980 nothing, and they made Road Warrior and Mad Max, Road Warrior, Mad Max 2, you know, and Mad Max. One of the things that was amazing about those movies is you watch stunts where people could and did get hurt doing those stunts. There's a couple of stunts that you see in those movies where you're like, see that? That's a guy bending the pin in his leg. He fucked up that stunt, and you're watching it on screen. That this shit is dangerous. that to create these effects is actually risking life and limb. You know, it's not just a drawing. You know, and I'm seeing a lot of drawings, being a lot of cartoon explosions done digitally, and that automatically turns me off a little bit. But again, but on top of everything else, I don't know, man. Tom Hardy is not. It's Tom Hardy, right? The
Yeah.
actor. He is not giving me anything except his sad face. He's giving me his kind of weepy face the whole time, just, you know, and I'm like, that is not what I want to see from Max Rokitansky, okay? I want to say what you like about the crazy old anti-Semite Catholic weirdo that Mel Gibson has become. He fucking sold us Max. We believed in Max. He did not have a weepy face when shit was going down, all right? And I'm just, you know, that one of my favorite moments, you know, is that thing where he's holding the fucking shotgun shell in his teeth and shooting the guy through the roof of the truck in Mad Max 2. That's what I want to see from Max, not, you know.
I'm just sad.
He looks sad. He looks broken. He looks. He looks.
I know. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I said just all that, like you said, all the super CGI and cars being picked up in tornadoes and exploding, and everybody's exploding in explosions, and Michael Bay explosions everywhere. It's like, okay, you guys are fucking overdoing it just a little bit.
When we watched all those crashes in the original Mad Max and Mad Max 2, we saw some brutal, scary, shocking car impacts where cars were just smashed to ribbons and flew apart. Almost nothing blew up. You know, because cars don't blow up. All right, they're not made out of gelignite and napalm.
No, they're made out
I
of
tried to explain that to someone just the other day, and they refused to believe that cars don't just explode when they're on fire.
Yeah,
They don't. They don't.
but you know, when we watched those first two movies, we watched metal bend because of the impact of tons of steel against other steel, and that was entertainment, kids.
So yes, everybody probably thinks we're crackpots, and I'm just like I'm too cynical and jaded now, and it's like it's not exciting me anymore. But anyway, enough of that. I'm gonna shut up about that now. Let's move on to Thundarr the Barbarian. Okay?
Well,
In the year 1994.
What?
I want to throw out two things that I saw recently.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
In the world of post-apocalypse. Number one, I saw The Rover, finally. And I cannot say enough good things about The Rover. I thought it was a brutally effective, brilliant film. Guy Pearce. Now, Guy Pearce, watching Guy Pearce in that movie, that's the face I want to see on Max Rokitansky, not Tom Hardy's. I want to see that worn out, unattractive, hair all fucked up because he's been cutting it himself in the back of his car. You know, that nothing about his character was attractive or sexy or cool, but the intensity he brought to that, where he's going to get his car back from the guys who took it, and yeah. It was amazing, and the payoff when you get to the end, I cannot give anything away. I cannot spoil that ending. It is so good, but when he's done, I'm like, yep, I might have done the exact same thing. There might be just as many dead bodies.
Oh yeah, I told you when I saw in the theaters a month or two ago that it was a great fucking film. Great film.
Yeah, and it is much better than I expected it to be. It's not quite post-apocalyptic. It's more of a dystopia, or it's an apocalypse in progress. But it's a story that doesn't have anything to do with the apocalypse or the conditions. It's a story that is maybe exacerbated by the conditions of this fucked up world. It felt like it could have been taking place in Mad Max 1.
Yeah,
You know?
it's that kind of level. But
yeah.
And what was the other thing you saw, Scott?
I saw The Dead 2.
Oh yeah, you told me.
Yeah, the Dead was one of the greatest reboots or reimaginings of the. Not even a reboot. It was classic slow Romero zombies. Classic slow shoot 'em in the head Romero zombies, and it was set in Africa, and it was shot in Africa on location, and it was great. Had a bunch of African actors. They clearly went out and got a whole bunch of guys in need of prosthesis and put them to work on the film, doing the special effects. It's a really good, really ruthless film, and it really made slow zombies terrifying again. The Dead. The Dead is a great film. The Dead 2 is set in India, and I watched it, and it just didn't measure up to the original. It wasn't just that it didn't do anything new, but it didn't feel like it didn't feel like it took advantage of the country it was set in. Like, The Dead 1 was set in an sub-Saharan African country, right on the edge of the desert.
Isn't Scott here? Are you still good, Will?
I'm doing fine.
Or am I okay, you're still good.
Am I breaking up?
Yeah, you broke up there for a second, and Will's like, I just see your face there, not moving.
Okay.
Can you move
now?
Can you move your head from?
Check me out.
Now you're good. Okay. All right. So yeah, now I'm getting suspicious we're gonna crap out here. So let's move on to
right.
the Dead, like Scott said, and I've seen it. Great zombie flick in the sea of bad ones. The Dead 2, according to Scott, pretend it didn't happen, right, Scott?
Yeah, just see The Dead. Just do not see The Dead 2.
Okay, so apparently in 1994, a runaway planet hurls between the Earth and the Moon.
It certainly did. We were all there. We all saw it.
I remember when the moon got split in half.
I love
the
the
Earth's
fact that
cloud cover got stripped away.
yes, I think that was the ozone layer leaving, is what that might have been. I love the fact that despite the fact that the moon is split in half at the beginning of Thundarr, it doesn't create two moons. They're both kind of close together, like the
gravity pulls each other back. It pulls it back.
Yeah, so there's a sort of wad of broken moon going around the Earth.
And I love that that's consistent. I love that every nighttime scene you can see the two chunks of moon and some asteroids always in the sky.
I want to say that there's an option in one of the mods for Fallout New Vegas where you can get a moon mod for Fallout New Vegas where the moon is split in half.
Oh, nice.
and it moves to the sky over and during the night. You get two pieces of moon with all the fragments.
And there's an 18-minute documentary out there, or part of a larger documentary called Lords of Light. I posted it on the event page, and it is also favorited on the YouTube channel. 18-minute documentary about the history and creation of the Thundarr the Barbarian cartoon. Very interesting, well worth your time. And one of the creators did talk about that intro. And how good that intro is, because that intro was like they said it was kind of like watching a mini film, because you're watching the apocalypse happen. It's very cinematic, It's like you're seeing the whole event every time, so it's like a film within a film. And part of the thing they talked about with the cartoon was that they wanted to aim at an older. They didn't want to just make it like a total kid cartoon like some of the earlier cartoons. They wanted to make it for older kids, the older titles, which again I guess targeted me because that came out in 1980. I was 11 when that started.
It felt like it was aimed at like 11 to 13, something like that.
Yeah, those early pre-teens. And they said that even adults liked it, because they talked about in that documentary how, I guess there was a group of guys at Stanford University who every Saturday they'd gather together in front of a big TV and watch it,
And anytime someone said Lords of Light, they took a drink.
Yeah. So so that's a good little documentary about the cartoon. But yeah, and I said I loved that cartoon back then, and they also, because they talk a lot about how they wanted to do they give a whole history about the whole sword and sorcery thing, the history of it, and the foundation. The documentary is very good. If you guys haven't, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Again, it's easy to find, called Lords of Light, Thundarr the Barbarian story, and they talk about how they wanted to bring it, but this didn't want to do just sword and sorcery, but they wanted to add technology of it. They didn't want to go to the past. They didn't want to do an old cartoon about, the history, like in the medieval times. They wanted to move forward. So that's how they combined the technology with it, because it's got magic. It's almost kind of, very kind of reminds me a little bit of Wizards, magic and technology.
Yep, it's got that aspect to it, and certainly Wizards is what, 70 what?
76, I want to say.
Yeah. So Wizards predates it. It's got that smell like Robert E. Howard. It's got that smell of that kind of Flash Gordon future. Do you know what I mean? A little bit like the future of Gamma World and the future of the Fallout games, where it's sort of that retro future.
Well, the DNA of the pulps is all over this show, and not just from the sword and sorcery angle, but from the mutants, the aliens, the weird tech that keeps showing up. I mean, it's like they took everything, they just scavenged everything they could from every angle of the pulps and synthesized it into this really awesome show. It all works together; nothing clashes.
Well, but for those of you out there who do not know what Thundarr the Barbarian is, because we really haven't introduced it. Jared, what's the world setup for Thundarr? What is the setup of this world?
Oh, it's a natural disaster. It 1994, the world gets and they talked about how they didn't want to do a nuclear apocalypse because they thought it would scare the kid. Like a natural disaster, destroy the Earth. 2,000 years later, the Earth is reborn. So it's 2,000 years after the destruction. And in the world is now there's mutants, there's humans, there's high technology, and there's sorcery back in the world. Like there's magic, and we could talk about how it's like, is it really sorcery, or can we say it's mutant powers or technology? Maybe we can maybe talk about that. How is it really sorcery? If you have a problem with it being magic, and I do, that's one thing I have a problem with. I do have a problem with it being magic. Because I don't like magic apocalypses. Okay, I don't want freaking fairy dust and sorcerer's scrolls. Okay.
So you don't like wizards?
All right. So I just
watch your mouth, Jared.
Yeah. Okay. But again, I can explain that away with mutant powers.
You can explain it away because you like Necron 99, and that's the end of that equation. Plus, Wizards has Nazi mutants, so
yeah.
It's got that going for it. And who doesn't? If it wasn't cool enough killing Nazis and it wasn't cool enough killing mutants, booyah, Nazi mutants! Absolutely no reason. It's literally Nazis plus orcs, and Nazis honestly are the orcs of most modern fiction anyways. Yeah. So it's a perfect combination, So
I take it back. You're right, but I normally but seriously, I normally don't like magic in my pocket. I normally don't like. So with the Thundarr thing, I'm kind of like, because it's so Wizards obviously it's millenniums far magic. Okay, all right, okay, I could buy that, but with Thundarr, it's very post-apocalypse, high technology. So I'm like, why did they have to throw magic into it?
Well, and again, you're right. I think you can explain that away as mutant powers. I mean, for crying out loud, look at all the so-called magic in Hero's Journey and the Unforsaken Hero.
Yeah.
All his post-apocalyptic mutant-run world is extremely magical. I mean, it's very fantasy.
Yeah.
So, and we bought it, and we love those stories.
Oh, absolutely. So so Thundarr, it's set in that world. It's you got Thundarr the Barbarian. He's not a stupid barbarian. He's smart, and he's a man. He's a barbarian of principles. He's got ethics.
He's a code of honor. He's a freedom fighter.
Yep.
Do they ever explain where he was captured from before he started off as a slave and led a slave revolt?
What I've only read was, and I've never seen the episode because I rewatched about 15 of the 21 episodes before the show, and they never really explain it. They do show it to you in the beginning, the rolling credits of him breaking his chains, because apparently Thundarr and Ukla, and let me explain the other three characters. You have Princess Ariel, who was a princess of something. Her stepfather was an evil wizard, and she helped Thundarr escape and gave him the Sun Sword, which is basically, everybody says, it's a lightsaber. I always saw it as a vibroblade. Gamma World, because Gamma World was out before fucking Star Wars, and it had fucking light swords. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yes, they did.
So to me, it's a light sword. It's a vibroblade. She helped them escape. Now she is intelligent, well-read, educated, understands the history, and she's a sorceress. And you have Ukla, who's a mock. A mock is like a cat race of people. Growls, very strong. They hate her because they said that they needed whoever was making it said they wanted a Wookiee type character, so they made Ukla the mock. So apparently, Ukla and Thundarr were.
He looks a little bit more like the original Ralph McQuarrie test drawings of Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Some of the early drawings of him, you're like, that doesn't seem cuddly.
Yeah. So they escaped from the wizard. She gave him the Sun Sword, and now he goes about fighting, for freedom, throughout the world. And then in this world, there's wizards. There's a lot of wizards, and they rule areas. Because there's like a council of wizards. They all have their little fiefdoms. They're always fighting, always trying to get more powers. And apparently humans are freaking bugs because they're always enslaving humans. Humans are always like in rags, groveling in mud huts. Okay, so apparently humans in this world, except there's other barbarians besides him. There's other sorcerers. There's a lot of mutant races. There's like gator people and monkey people, and there's
rat people.
There's rat people. There's grizzly.
Everything that can be uplifted to a bipedal thumb-having technological has been. Everybody's got thumbs now, and everybody's got a forge and a sword and chainmail and the occasional ray gun too.
Yeah, they have ray guns. There's like grizzly snakes. Like these giant furry snakes with grizzly heads, they're just like, they are so over the top with their creatures, but it's cool. Again, I'm 11 years old,
over the top. Come on, Gamma World has rabbits that turn metal into rubber.
What are you talking about? That's standard. that's standard.
So I wasn't that worried about the monsters on fucking Thundarr.
No.
After going through the creatures at the back of Gamma World, this was tame. Tame.
Well, I'm saying it's on that along the same line, so I was kind of already acclimated to it. So again, to me, it was totally Gamma World. The wizards, they have their magic, plus they use a lot of high technology too on top of it, and they're always trying to get more powers. And that's the basic world setup. And every episode, they're encountering some kind of wizard who's trying to enslave. But then again, they tried to make it for older kids. But again, you get into the standard Saturday morning cartoon, formula. It's like, okay, what's the story of the week? Who are we going to fight this week? This wizard, that wizard. They've enslaved this. We got to help this person. Again, very standard. It's a script. But again, it's a Saturday morning cartoon, so we can't expect high art out of it. But I loved it, and I still love it to this day. It's still fantastic, and it is available on DVD that you can get on Amazon, the Warner Brothers Archive. It's 4 discs, all 21 episodes, and it's not mass production DVDs. They're print-on-demand DVDs. Basically, they make them as they need them.
So there's no the documentary. Is the documentary on there?
No, this is just the episodes. Just
all
the
right.
episodes. Now it does say a Hanna-Barbera classic collection on this, which is again is wrong because Hanna-Barbera didn't do it. Ruby Spears did this.
Well, what happened is that the Turner Broadcasting Company bought both Hanna-Barbera and Ruby Spears and all
Oh,
their assets. And because Hanna-Barbera is the big name, several things produced by other studios that got pulled into this buyout have been released as like Hanna-Barbera classic collections.
Uh-huh.
gotcha, because it has the name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I wanted to point out that one of the things that hooked me about the cartoon, it had enough violence to keep me entertained, but I don't believe they ever killed anybody on the show.
Nope, they never killed anybody.
The one standout for me that did kill people, I always remember like really standing out as a cartoon people got killed on, was that same time period that Flash Gordon.
Oh, yeah, the Flash Gordon that Lou Scheimer did.
Yeah, they killed some guys on that, and that kind of blew my mind. That as a kid, they're like, "Whoa, hey, that was a fatality. Let's have more of that." But no one ever gets killed on it because it's still a Saturday morning cartoon. But the creature design and the villain designs are by Jack Kirby.
Oh, yeah, the king.
One of the great designers for characters and critters and artists for, I guess it's Marvel, was where he had his home.
Yeah, he really became famous at Marvel when he and Stan Lee did Fantastic Four, and then in the 70s he moved over to DC and worked with DC up, I think, until the 80s.
Yeah,
Where he
Fantastic.
did Fourth World.
Fantastic Four is the one I always remember the most, and
Well, they also
a lot of the critters, including who's the villain who's got the two faces? Janus?
Gemini.
Gemini. Okay.
Gemini.
Gemini definitely.
I will kill you. You know, he has that kind of sing-songy voice. And tell his face that he talked really mean. You know.
I'll get that barbarian.
I always preferred the more bass voice than the squeaky nasal voice. I'm never afraid of the nasal guys. It always bothered me when Skeletor had that voice. It's like, wow,
Mumbling fools.
Yeah, exactly. He sounds like Dr. Smith on Lost in Space. Who's afraid of Dr. Smith?
Also, Alex Toth worked on it as well.
Yeah, that was the guy who did the main design for
Space Coast.
Yeah, did the main design for the main characters. Didn't Toth also do Herculoids, or am I just smoking crack?
He may have that. They all have a very Alex Toth look.
Yeah.
So between these two guys being involved, who are both really great, really evocative illustrators, who managed to make create these really interesting looks, at least to me, at the same time as being a little bit, almost minimalist, in their illustrations.
They're so striking, but they're so easy to animate.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way of describing it. They're striking and yet easy to animate.
The Herculoids were designed by Alex.
Yeah,
and they talk about in the documentary the animation style, about how they did the animation, how a lot of animations they did a lot of stuff off scenes, but they tried to push the limits of trying to show stuff happening, and they're like, every line you put down costs money, and they were trying to really work within budgets, but they wanted to make it stand out more so than other stuff.
Yeah. So the guys who are behind the production created some really interesting looks that got my attention as a kid. And again, it was the sort of the combination of the familiar and the unfamiliar. We created this world full of crazy mutants and whatnot. But boy, every episode they show you something familiar from our time.
Well, that was part of their methodology about how they wanted people to be identify and understand it. So visual cues was a big part of the show, because they would show, if they were in D.C., if they were in California, St. Louis, they would show visual cues, so people would say, okay, they're in New Orleans. I understand that. I know New Orleans. So they do a lot of visual cues of things from the past to show that they're still in this world. That was a big thing.
Well, it grounded the show and makes everything that happens in it just that much more believable because it's taking place in an actual space that
Yeah.
you have seen, either because you've
Yep.
been there or you've seen the pictures. And they go even further. There's an episode where a sorcerer animates the Statue of Liberty, and it goes on a rampage, blasting firebolts out of its torch.
That's actually, I think, the first one. Was it
Yeah.
the Curse of the Black Pearl, where and that was Gemini as well.
Yeah.
Who they banish, but he comes back later on to revenge. He's a nemesis that comes back at least once in the episode, because again, every wizard's trying to fight each other.
I was always pleased by the fact that they left America a couple of times.
Yes.
They got down into Mexico and Central America, and they
London
got,
to London.
and London, and they got to London at least once.
Who knows how they got there?
Obviously, they went through the Transmat and the Redoubt, right, Jared?
Oh yeah. Locations: New York City, the Yucatan Peninsula, in Mexico, Cape Canaveral, unknown Norfolk, Virginia, Mount Rushmore, D.C., Las Vegas, California, San Fernando, Alaska, San Antonio, San Francisco, the Grand Canyon, St. Louis, Boston, London, Central America, again, Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and Atlanta, Georgia are some of the known locations that they've been
Okay,
to.
I gotta ask. Did you see the episode where they went to San Antonio?
The Alamo?
Yeah, because it says they went back to the past. So I'm curious. Did they go back to?
That episode is Porthole into Time.
So my question is, when they went back to the past, was it the past, like 1982 past, when the show was released, or was it the future past? You know what I mean? Did they go back into the past and it was still futuristic because the Earth hadn't been smashed by the passing comet yet? I mean,
No, it was 1980.
Okay. Darn it, because I was so hoping that we'd get a glimpse of the future in the past,
Well,
You know what I mean?
Well, also in that episode, which is funny, again to tie in the whole pulp and barbarian thing is, you know what the evil wizard's name was in that episode?
Crom.
Thank you, Crom. The evil wizard Crom threatens a tribe of humans at the Alamo.
Crom.
Yep.
Okay.
Crom. Crom. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Thank Crom it's Friday.
Although they did have some cool names. I love Mind Doc, the Mind Menace.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that's the one where it's the thing from it's the thing that was actually alive when the apocalypse happened. It's like is it a brain in a jar? What is the Mind Menace?
Or I thought he was like a corpse in like a suspended animation tube. Is how I remember it.
Yeah, something.
No,
like
no,
that.
no. Yeah, no. It was the Mendoc, the Mind Menace. They go to Cape Canaveral, Florida, because he apparently was alive when the apocalypse happened, and he was able to save his brain in this kind of, I guess, this machine, but it was all that kept his brain alive. So over 2,000 years, he became very powerful. So I don't know why it took him 2,000 years, but he wanted to build a robot body to house his brain, so he's not just this floating jetpack thing. And it's like, why did it take him 2,000 years to do that?
Look, man, when we went to Point Lookout and we found that guy's brain under the lighthouse, we didn't ask any hard questions like that. We just blew up the brain.
Oh, okay. So, but they go to Cape Canaveral because at Cape Canaveral are the ice people, and he wants to find the ice people to build him a robot body, and those are basically some scientists that were in suspended animation in Cape Canaveral, Florida.
I gotta tell you, that's really sexy to me. That the idea that you find the primitives who find the hyper, the hyper sleep chambers and refer to them as the ice people. That really works for me.
Oh yeah, they're so. Go ahead, Will.
Oh, I actually used this episode as the inspiration for part of a Gamma World campaign.
That's the right answer. That's the
where it
right
was
answer for every episode.
It was all in Florida, and there were these two religions. One religion worshipped these frozen scientists in Cape Canaveral, and the other religion worshipped the cryogenically frozen head of Walt Disney.
Nice.
And they were always fighting for limited supplies of liquid nitrogen, which was used to keep the freezing systems working. It was fantastic.
Yes, that is the right answer. Yes, if you do not have an army of moldy, damaged, animatronic, Hall of Presidents robots fighting the players in the ruins of Disney while the frozen head of Walt Disney, urges them on to find to root out communism and Jews, because that would be Walt Disney.
Well, actually, I had that. I had super strong robot presidents and robot bears, but also the people in the animal character costumes were actually prisoners who were lobotomized and sealed into the suits.
Yes, that is exactly right. Look, man, I lived in Orlando, Florida for 18 years. In the shadow of the mouse. That is everything we feared was actually happening at Disney.
Oh, it is.
We just figured that out in the swamps around Disney, that's where they released the animatronic, the walk-arounds and the costumes. Yeah, those aren't costumes. Those are just genetic experiments, and the ones that didn't work out as well, they just released them into the swamps.
Speaking of genetic experiments, because that's, again, there was so much cool subject matter that they touched on in Thundarr the Barbarian. Besides, the frozen people, going back in time. There's one episode, it was like the lair of the sleeping demon or something like that. Basically, there was this wizard who's like, there's a sleeping demon in this valley, and they have to find. These wizards trying to find this demon, because apparently he finds the demon, it's supposed to give him untold magical powers. So they find this hospital, and hospital, it's a place where sick people would get well. That's a lot of what happened in the shows, because they would Ariel was always that source of knowledge of things from the past, and Thundarr wasn't just, he wouldn't blow things off. He would ask questions. What is this?
But he did not have the book learning. We're not saying he had the book learning.
He didn't have the book learning, and whatever brute strength couldn't solve, she would help solve. Anyway, so they go to the hospital, and apparently there's this humanoid owl creature there that they wake up wake up by, because the guy, you know how he figured out how to do it, to wake it up, because he had a copy of fucking Frankenstein in his arm, and he hooks up this whole electricity thing, and the lightning hits, and it wakes up the sleeping demon, and it has these dog tags, and basically it was just a genetic experiment pre-apocalypse. It was like this winged owl humanoid thing, and it wasn't a demon at all. It wasn't a mutant. It was just a genetic experiment. But they thought it was this legend. They thought it was going to give it power. So they really touch on a lot of just cool concepts and a lot of good concepts for any kind of post-apocalyptic gaming, Gamma World, or whatever your flavor is. Yeah,
that's cool. That's the part that I like, is where it's characterized as a demon, or it's characterized as sorcery, but it's not. I mean, I know that there's an episode. There's at least one episode where they're digging up pre-war military technology, like missiles or something, or what's the one? What was it? What's the one that was it? Torpedoes that they were trying to salvage from a Navy base.
Was it Raiders of the Abyss?
I don't remember. Nope. I'm looking at the episode list. It's Treasure of the Mox. It's the Mox versus some river pirates who are trying to salvage torpedoes from a Navy base. And
and isn't their pirate ship is basically this giant wood construct that has like parts of an old battleship on it?
Yeah.
That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
All the kind of the themes and the ideas that come out in the show are so cool, and they're so rich, and it's just ripe for a post-apocalyptic world.
But it is it's for a specific kind of post-apocalypse. It has to be that kind of post-apocalypse, where we've journeyed so far beyond the apocalypse.
Yeah.
The apocalypse is now a legend. The apocalypse is now a myth, a war between the gods. That Ragnarok has happened, and that this stuff that's left behind are the weapons of the gods. It has a mythic quality to it. Same thing with all the, it's it's again hero, unrequited hero, Gamma World, definitely fall into that category. Eternity Road doesn't really, because Eternity Road never really gets beyond rationality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Eternity Road was always about people who understood and explored their post-apocalyptic world rationally. But this stuff it's a little bit down to gods and monsters and magic, and that really worked.
Oh, something I wanted to point out that, and this connects to Treasure of the Mox and the River Pirates with their awesome cobbled-together boat. The villain in that one was Captain Cordon, Queen of the River Pirates. Thundarr the Barbarian had more good female characters, both heroes, villains, allies, and otherwise, than I think any other show of its era.
Yeah, you're right.
And really going up through the 90s.
Well, it's always good when you've got a female villain who's actually, actually a physical threat as opposed to, get them,
Oh no, they were very strong characters, and Ariel was a very strong character. She wasn't just like she wasn't the wave. She held her own. Thundarr was always very, he was a bit, like, oh, we must protect her, and she's like, I can protect myself, because she saved. He saved her bacon, but she saved his bacon quite a few times as well. She's very strong, standalone character. She's smart, she's knowledgeable, she knows things, and she can hold her own.
Is it my imagination? I could never quite tell from the whether or not she was meant to be
Asian.
What her ethnicity was, because I kind of thought that
Asian.
I kind of thought that they meant for her to be something other than a non-Caucasian character for a change.
I always read her as being like Indian, like from Bombay.
Well, I think it's supposed to be more Asian because there's an episode where they're in old Chinatown, and she says, "Oh, this is an old Chinatown that would have been in many old Earth cities, and my ancestors came from a place like this."
Okay, cool, bingo. And so I also appreciate the fact that it wasn't just the standard cookie cutter, team of white guys. Doing white guy things, aka the Herculoids, the Thundercats.
White guys doing white guy things.
I mean, Space Ghost. That's all a bunch of honkies just honking around.
Is that kind of like the high five and white guys?
God. Oh boy, the Sharia law says you're supposed to chop off hands when they steal, but I'm thinking the high five might be what you're supposed to chop people's hands off for. Holy crap.
And speaking of role-playing games with Thundarr, there's two that I know of iterations where people have done settings for Thundarr the Barbarian with role-playing games. There's the first one that came out was I believe it's under a website called Under the Broken Moon, where they did a Thundarr the Barbarian world using the Over the Edge rules.
Wow, Over the Edge.
Yes.
Wow, that is a really excruciatingly rules-light system for a game where you're supposed to punch and or ensorsa or zap your problems away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the first one, and then there's a second one which was put out using the Savage Afterworld for Mutant Future rules.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think that one's a little more recent, within the last few years. I could find it. It was I have to look. I'll look that up and I'll post that. But yeah, both. I'll post both of them in the event page. But yeah, it was Savage Worlds. It was they used Mutant Future. So those are two RPGs that they use that for. And there's just a lot of stuff out there. A lot of materials. People talk about. I'm always seeing. 2004. I think somebody, Toonami, I think, put out, or I think that who it was, put out some Thundarr the Barbarian action figures. They put out,
Yes, they did. You're right. It's really recently. In fact, let's go ahead and go to the.
I think it was 2004 or 5. They put them out. I think it was 4. And they put out the Thundarr, Ukla, and Ariel, and then
right. It was Toonami. It's 2004, which is funny. And that's hilarious to me that the action figures get released before the DVD does.
Yeah, well, the DVD was just the last like through I think in 2009 they did that, and then there was of course a slew of there's merchandise back in the 80s. There was a Thunder the Barbarian board game that was out there that
Was
somebody
there?
put out. Yeah, there was.
Now I know
Uh,
what to get you for Christmas.
oh, thank you. And then as well as there was a standard you know lunchbox and thermos was out there. Thermos. I want to say it how the nerdy cat. I got my thermos. You know how he said in that one fucking episode. Dwayne Dibley. That's it. I got my thermos. But
Oh my God! Yeah.
I've got sandwiches, my thermos, and a condom because you never know.
thank you, Will.
I'm the man to come to for Red Dwarf quotes.
Yes. Apparently, it's like I watched it a lot when it aired late '80s, early '90s on PBT, but apparently not as much as you have. So,
All right, I gotta ask. All right, Will, when this is your Red Dwarf question, when they eject the coffin for Ace Rimmer in the episode where they take what's his name off the show for a while, when they eject the Ace Rimmer coffin into the black hole and it ends up in orbit, and then you see the graveyard. Did you bust out into tears or not?
I did not bust out into tears, but I like that they gave real gravitas to that scene. It was a very touching scene.
Yeah, when they back off and the graveyard is now a ring around a world, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's an amazing image.
That scores 10 out of 10 for a ridiculous little British show. But hey, these damn Brits. They brought us Survivors and Blake 7.
yes, Blake 7.
There's no end to their perfidy.
I wish Blake 7 was a post-apocalyptic story series because I'd love to talk about that. But
we know it is the Dead Set. We could talk about that in a future episode.
Oh yeah, that's their zombie miniseries. You know what, sir? Considering what Earth looks like, I'm not quite sure it's not post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, that's true.
Blake's Earth looks pretty done in by whatever century it is. But nope, sadly, it's not post-apocalyptic enough.
And one of these something else that was floating around on eBay, which pops up every once in a while. It's the same guy. He's selling these. He must be printing them out himself, which is fine. He has some production sheets because I doubt these are all the original ones, and some early adverts. And he's been selling them on eBay, and I actually picked them up recently. So it has print copies of original Thundarr little adverts that they would get handouts. They would have.
Oh, stuff for the magazine advertising?
Magazine ads, or the handout for when plus it also the pack had some some of these different production sheets, of the different positions of the characters.
Character sketches.
Like how to draw them, and these are just a couple of them because there's I've seen even more online because they really.
Wait. What was Oogla's? Oogla never got a horse. Oogla got some.
The E-Quart. EQUART.
The reptilian sort of dragon-like horse.
Okay,
there it is, folks.
The E-Quart. Got it.
E-Quart. So they had, there's a ton of this stuff out there. There's other ones, there's all the villains, there's colors, and of course there's, and I told these guys, it's probably not real, but apparently somebody there's a nude one of Ariel where it shows her boobies. And
I've seen that. That looks like somebody tweaked a character turnaround in Photoshop.
I don't care. I still was grateful for it. But
oh, you're revealing too much.
I know, but it's out there. And then also two other things that came in this pack, and these look like coloring book pages almost, and I would love to color them in.
Oh, if I was a kid, I would have eaten up a Thundarr coloring.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here's this one, and this one, which is going to get framed. I'm going to put a simple frame and put this on the wall right here.
Classic.
That's going on the wall of fame. probably somewhere near the Gamma World poster.
I gotta ask, what's the time frame reference between Thundarr and He-Man, the Masters of the Universe? Because
He 83, 84, I'm gonna say.
I always thought that He-Man looked a hell of a lot like
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thundarr. Now maybe it's just because they both use that sort of Prince Valiant haircut that Conan has.
Yeah.
And you read it in the stories, Conan's got this very, bowl cut, straight sides, almost, Prince Valiant haircut in the stories. And some of that shows up in the comics that are illustrated by, was it Frank Thorne? Is that who did some of the Conan stuff? Thorne, who went on to do Red Sonja.
I believe he did some Savage Sword of Conan.
Yeah. He-Man seems to have some of that on him. So maybe He-Man is stealing from the same well rather than
I'm sure.
Rather than stealing directly from Thundarr.
All right, folks, I just posted on the event page the Under the Broken Moon, the Over the Edge Rules RPG, and the one from Savage Afterworld. I posted those up there, folks, for you. But yeah, and also another interesting things that they that are mentioned, and I've seen people talk about, was the Sun Sword. Is again, everybody says it's a lightsaber. I more think it's a vibroblade from Gamma World, which is again out before Star Wars. One of the things with that sword is, number one, it only worked for Thundarr. Like, other people couldn't use it. They tried to use it, it wouldn't work for them. Only he could activate it. So again, people say it was the magic in it, or we could just say it had some kind of, fingerprint tech, like you could do with
a genetic lock, maybe.
Genetic lock. See, we can explain away a lot of this.
Nanites. Magic. We can explain everything with nanites.
It's all nanites, and what was interesting about it too is that he could deflect magic laser beams. He could cut through things, but a lot of times when he would hit living objects, it wouldn't do anything. Like if he would hit somebody with it, it has no effect on him. But then he could cut a 10-foot thick steel door in half without thinking about it. So it was interesting how it wouldn't harm living flesh, but it could deflect, inanimate objects, cut things.
Well, if I'm writing that, I immediately turn it into that the Sun Sword is actually some sort of industrial tool with a safety feature built into it. This is like something that somebody would have used it as a construction tool with this extra safety feature, so you can't chop your own fingers off while using it, but you can cut metal and you can, it can deflect or interfere with energy. But then you try and hit flesh with it, it wouldn't work, which would kind of be hilarious because you'd hit a guy with the Sun Sword and his chainmail would be cut in half and just fall off. His clothes would fall off, but he'd be fine. You could chop the gun in half, And
he cut weapons in half all the time. But
that would be kind of hilarious if it was like some, It's really a Black & Decker energy chainsaw. With the special feature, if you were at S-Mart buying it from Bruce Campbell's Ash, he would explain the safety features of the Black & Decker, energy chainsaw to you. Guaranteed not to dismember your friends or family,
Well, some other things about the Sun Sword, and this I got, the magazine, the Fandom magazine Film Facts had a really awesome article several months ago about Thundarr the Barbarian and how it came about. And part of the reason the show ended up with the Sun Sword, well, one, it is a very cool weapon. But the other reason was, at the time, the networks were getting really paranoid about a backlash against depictions of violence on television. And so the way they decided to sort of nip that in the bud is it's got a barbarian, he's got to have a sword. We will just make sure that it's not a real weapon. We will just make up a crazy, fictional, awesome weapon. And then then we don't have to worry about keep getting content notes from the network saying, well, the kids might find a real sword and might cut each other with it.
Yeah, because kids never make swords out of anything they find. A stick, the family, the cat, the pillows off the couch.
You know what I used to use for frickin' swords. I don't know if they had them up in Orlando, Scott, but they had there was these I guess it was off the palm trees or some tree.
Oh, yeah, I
Like
know what you're talking about. The palm fronds. You strip all the fronds
no,
off.
not the palm fronds, but there was like these other like it was like this other like stick that would come off the trees. It was maybe this long, and like there was some. It was like these thin whip-like little sticks that are about I don't know maybe a meter long, and like it came off a tree, and there was some things on the other end, but least but it wasn't a palm frond stick. But it was like they were everywhere, at least down in South Florida.
And we had one. I remember when I was maybe 6 or 7, whatever school I was in. Had a tree like that in the playground, and so naturally the guys all went and got a weapon
Oh yeah.
for recess, and then it all became, I don't know, Robin Hood or Ivanhoe and the Three Musketeers or whatever we were doing at that age, because I don't think we quite had, Star Wars hadn't quite arrived yet. It all turned into lightsabers in 1977, but before then it was, D'Artagnan or something. But yeah, I remember that too.
But they
we will turn anything into weapons, people. That's all there is to it.
exactly. So that was one thing about the show, about the cancellation, because we talk about the violence, is that they were talking about it because it wasn't like the show didn't have good ratings. The show had good ratings, but the networks felt it was too violent.
Yeah, even as reined in as it was.
They thought it was too violent because Ookla was the master of using the environment. He would throw cars. There's this one where he pulled this. It was like I guess a ball and chain from like a wrecking ball. Pulled one off and like rolled it down an alleyway to knock over a bunch of robots.
Yeah.
Girders, you name it. He was hitting things with it.
Well, it's funny that as tone as run back in as it is. It is a cartoon, though, where every episode they fucked somebody up.
Oh, yeah, shit was getting messed up.
Heaven forbid you were a robot, because then you were totally getting smashed or blown up.
Oh, yeah, you're done. Done.
If you're a wizard, don't send your robot minions, because they're not coming back. You send some guys. Maybe they'll come back a little bruised up, but robots aren't going to come back. And they blew some shit up and knocked some shit over every single episode. So I can see why the networks would get a little wimpy about that.
Yeah.
But.
Now, Will, you were saying that you found some stuff about some production shots about the undone third season.
Yes, this was also in that same article from Film Facts. They had begun work on a third season, but again, the show got canceled, so nothing was ever actually animated. But they had some story outlines, and they had some new character designs. And apparently, one of the things they were preparing for the third season is that Thundarr, Ariel, and Ookla were going to go into outer space. And there's an awesome Jack Kirby character design of the spacesuits they were going to use. They were like, the suits themselves look kind of like high-tech versions of what NASA was using at the time, with this kind of neat both 1950s and 1980s looking jetpack on the back. So they were going to go into outer space for something. Maybe they were going to land on the shattered moon or take down a satellite, but that was going to be a big part of the next season.
There's only one reason you take jetpacks to the shattered moon, and that's so you can have an opportunity to leap from one piece of the moon across the giant chasm to the other piece of the moon. That shit
that would have been nice.
Kind of has to happen. If you're going to go to the shattered moon, at some point you're going to end up backed up to a cliff or whatever and have to jump from one moon to the other. I don't think there's any way around that.
Now, Will, is this a print magazine, or is this something we can find online?
It is a print magazine. I will try to track down the issue number and post it to the podcast at Ground Zero page.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if I could track that down. So
it's a fantastic article.
Well, you've got Jerry's attention. Besides going into space, besides the illustrations of the spacesuits, is there anything else from the article that jumped out? Were they weren't planning to like bring in another character or
Aside from being Gemini back to sort of cement him as Thundarr's nemesis, no, there weren't going to be any change-ups to the cast. Like, it's a formula that worked, and they were just going to keep using it. I think they were going to send. There was an outline for an episode where I think they were going to send Thundarr to Japan, or at least someplace in Asia. They were going to go. They were going to leave the American continent at least one more time.
Okay. That's cool. Well, I'm sort of amused that they're going to bring Gemini back because
he did come back in a later episode disguised to try to seek revenge on Thundarr. So he'd been back at least once in the series. So bringing him back again because he just struck me as he's the big bad guy who he has to keep on fighting. He does.
Well, it's a kind of genre that requires a nemesis. That requires a reoccurring villain that you will be matching wits and strengths with, at least once a season.
Oh yeah,
and Sothamon.
Yeah, and they're always fighting against the wizards. They enslaved them to do a race for them. These wizards to run this battle to find the helmet of power, which was hidden in the Hoover Dam.
Of course it was. How'd they get past the NCR?
Oh, stop! But.
I apologize. I've been playing Fallout New Vegas.
Again, but
I'm still playing my retarded playthrough. I took a character with a really super low intelligence, and it does give you a whole bunch of different dialogue options. And I've gone through and just consistently picked the stupidest thing I can say in every situation.
Wait, what game are you talking about?
Fallout New Vegas.
Oh yes.
They actually have a way to do a stupid playthrough where you can take a stupid character and it gives you a whole bunch of unique playthrough options. There's a lot of times that people are going, "Oh, I see, you're one of them special fellers," There's the whole thing about turning the solar powered station on. There's the Helios 1 station, all your dialogue options are like, "Me make shiny juice go now." It's just, it's really hilarious.
A friend of mine and I had actually played the original Fallout at his place, and as an experiment, we somehow ended up with 100 bottles of the Nuka Cola. So we just had the character drink all the bottles, and. All of our stats shot up, and then immediately we overdosed, and they all dropped down, and it was going to take 5 days for the character to recover. But, because of the overdose, all the stats were at a minimum. At least the mental ones were, and the mental stats were dropped so low that most of the time we talked to characters, we only had 2 dialogue options. One was stare silently, and the other was
that is fucking awesome.
That is one of the things they did in the original game, and one of the I think it's Fallout 2 is the one where you run into a guy who's all the village idiot who's a shepherd. He's like, Moo-Moo's in danger. You help me now with Moo-Moo. I mean, he's just got this incredibly primitive way of talking. And if you take a really stupid character to the same guy and talk to him, suddenly he sounds like an English lord. He's all, "I say, pleased to make your acquaintance. There's a terrible problem with my Brahmin herd. Perhaps you would assist me." "Oh, I would be delighted." It's only then when you meet him that you converse.
Wow.
You're in an English gentleman's club, and the rest of the time your speech options are stare silently and ugh or ook or it's just kind of awesome.
Well, that strikes me as something, because if Thundarr the Barbarian had come out just a few years later, what with merchandising tie-ins, I bet it would have made a kick-ass video game.
Yes, it would.
I would like to see a Atari 2600 version of a game.
Yeah.
It'd be just Sun Sword, but
yeah, there's one button for Sun Sword.
Anyway, all right. So I think we all agree.
And there's a different button for Ariel, and there's a different button for Oogla.
Well,
activate Oogla.
There's a different button for Ariel. Don't you worry about that.
Hey!
But
wow.
All right, so folks, I think that's Thundarr the Barbarian in a nutshell. Again, favorite classic post-apocalyptic cartoon action show that apparently a lot of people like, because again, there's been role-playing games adapted for it. 2 different systems. There's a lot of wiki pages and a lot of fan stuff out there, fan art. Again, very well received. I think there was even a band that was made. Somebody named their band Ukla the Mock or something.
Yeah, there's a band called Ukla the Mock.
Yeah.
I believe they actually performed at Gen Con a few years ago.
Oh, nice.
Well, thank God. I would have hoped it was Ukla and the Mox, but all right, we can go with
that
Ukla the
would
Mox.
be even better. So, again, classic show. As I said, I posted a few things on the event page that you guys could find it. Track down the documentary, Lords of Light, the Thundarr the Barbarian story. You could easily find it on YouTube. I also posted it on the event page. It is also on the favorite section of the Podcast at Ground Zero YouTube channel. So just go to the favorites. You can find it there real easily. 18 minutes of your time gives you some pretty good insight on that cartoon. And again, we all love that. We all love the cartoon. Again, I love that cartoon. I said I started watching it when I was 11. I don't think I played role-playing games quite yet. I think maybe within that year or so I first played D&D. Then maybe like a year after that, I picked up a copy of Gam World.
And they're like, aha, it's the Thundarr role-playing game.
Exactly. When I was like in 7th grade, I'm like, Thundarr! You know, so it...
You want give me the Vibro Sword, I'm calling it the Sun Sword, and we're done. We don't need another weapon.
Exactly. So Gam World, again, fits in very well to that. And all right, that's it, folks. Like I said, good show. If you haven't seen it, you could pick up if you wanted if you're a real good fan, you could pick up the DVDs. They're usually, you can usually find them on sale, like a lot of times for $20 or less. But it's all over freaking YouTube too, so you can just watch on YouTube if you don't feel like buying it. But again, I'm one of those kind of assholes. I like to shit like this. I like to own because then I can just pop it in the DVD player.
Well, it's not coming on Netflix anytime soon. So.
Oh, absolutely not. So again, that was our show, and I haven't talked to Scott about what we're going to do next. We'll figure it out. I said we ran a little about a week late on the show because we had the holidays. I had some real bad crunch time with work for some major projects I'm working on. So
I really wish we could come up with something that was like the holiday apocalypses, but I don't know any goddamn holiday apocalypses.
Yeah.
That seems pretty thin.
Yeah, well, the show will be after Christmas, but between Christmas and New Year's. So
I know one holiday apocalypse.
Yes.
Well, actually, no. I take that back. I know 2. You've got all the Y2K apocalypses, which would have happened on New Year's. There's a holiday. But the other, there's an episode of Invader Zim where a nanite-based Santa Claus goes haywire and starts to turn into like gray goo that's going to consume the Earth.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough, even if it is Invader Zim. That counts.
So we don't know what we're going to do next, folks. But again, as we figure it out, we'll post it. Yeah, because again, like I said, this is a labor of love, so we'll figure it out like we always do. And so I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank everybody for hosting tonight. As always, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Will, for joining us again for the discussion. Again, always good discussions. And what else? That's it. That's all we got.
Be socially media responsible.
Oh yeah, well I get tired of saying that because nobody fucking cares anymore.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, but go out. We actually we got over 100. We're up to about 121 likes on the Facebook page.
Woo! See, there you go. That's almost like wow. Yeah.
Almost like what?
That's almost Kardashian levels of popularity. I mean, we're really making some progress here.
We're making some headway, and there's also the well, you know what's a real good gauge is, let me see, how many subscribers do we have on the YouTube channel? We're
like 6. There's me, you, Bill Thrasher.
No. We got
That's my wife. It's probably not my wife.
No, we got quite a few, and if I could just give me a second, and I will.
I could have sworn it hadn't cracked 100 yet. But...
Oh no. Well, we're close. No, actually, we had 188 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So.
That's crazy. That is
Nice.
200 people in America give a shit about this? What the hell?
I don't know. It's definitely the apocalypse is the downfall of America. But
Now, how are we gonna? If only we could find some way of exploding those 180 people in order to pay our bills. Just saying that 67 people unsubscribe.
yeah, I know.
Just bam, hit the unsubscribe.
We'll set up a GoFundMe account for just send us money because we want your money.
Patreon. Patreon. We gotta do that. Oh, speaking of things from up north, I'm working my way through Shattered.
Okay, I haven't picked it up yet. I'm way behind, so I gotta get moving on that. So
yeah, there's winners and there's winners and losers in it, but we'll get to that later. But I'm working my way through it, so maybe we'll take a crack at the Great White North's apocalypse.
okay, all right, we'll talk about it offline. But so again, thank you everybody for joining us. That's all we got for this week. And as usual, again, thank you for joining us. Be socially responsible, like we said before. So we are signing off. So everybody, thank you and good night.
See you in the wastelands.
By the Lords of Light!